Just a heads up, this channel now has a Patreon. Check out the link in the description to help us out and get cool stuff. Hello everyone, and welcome to VeggieTalks, the show where I talk about all things VeggieTales. Last time I talked about the 3-2-1 Penguins Qubo episodes, so now let's talk about the VeggieTales Qubo episodes. One of the things that Phil Vischer and Mike Naraki have always wanted for VeggieTales is for it to be on TV. In fact, that was actually its original intent. It was actually going to be pitched to Nickelodeon. But Nickelodeon didn't really want the whole Christian part in there, so that was kind of a bust. Ever since Where's God When I'm Scared came out, or rather, Where's God When I'm Scared, they've always wanted VeggieTales to get picked up by somebody, anybody, really. So, after they got bought out by Classic Media, who had very close ties to DreamWorks because, you know, they were in the process of getting bought out by DreamWorks, they were able to secure a time slot on the Saturday morning program, Qubo. Big Idea was ecstatic, even Phil Vischer, who was kind of being distanced from the company at this time. But he was allowed to come back on just for a little bit, specifically spearheading the beginning and ending of each of these shows. Why just those? Well, because unlike 3-2-1 Penguins, there wouldn't be brand new episodes made for TV. They would just air the old ones. You know, all the classics we know and love, like Lyle the Kindly Viking, Esther the Girl Who Became Queen, Where's God When I'm Scared, and so many more. The beginning and ending were always with Bob and Larry at Bob's house, talking about the lesson of the day and Larry doing something weird or somebody coming by the door and doing something weird. Basically, it's all about doing something weird. And it's just drenched in Phil Vischer writing. Phil Vischer has a very distinct writing style that's hard to put into words, but you can tell that he definitely had something to do with this. Right down to the lyrics of the theme songs with random lyrics about Portland being disconnected, or Palgrave's little sting he'd have at the end of the song. This has Phil Vischer written all over it. So every episode would start off the same. It'd be Bob and Larry saying hi to the kids, and then Jimmy would come by as the mailman singing his hilarious mailman song. Then there'd always be the same joke over and over where he'd try to put the mail into the mail slot and just fail at it. I mean, it's repetitive, yeah, but I don't know, it's still funny. I can never get enough of that. Then they get to the lesson, which is always from some sort of letter from a kid, and then one of their neighbors comes by, being Archibald, Palgrave, Mr. Lunt, Paco the Talking Mule, who actually is Mr. Lunt. And then they show some kind of crazy, insane thing that very clearly does not help with the lesson, and then Bob shows one of the actual episodes to help teach the lesson. Then we cut back, and then there's a little bit of a joke, and then we see them next week. So, sounds pretty good, right? Well, let's talk about that, and then you're gonna see just what exactly went wrong. Well, wrong with the actual episodes, because for the most part, these interstitials in the beginning and ending are great. These are really well done, with the same kind of writing you'd find in something like Lyle or King George and the Ducky. With this, they were able to recapture everything that they had, with the whole random humor Phil has, or the extreme vocabulary he'd use for little kids. Everything about it just seems to work except for two things. The first part, the way that they teach the lessons is not very well done. By that I mean the kind of problems that the kids have in the letters. Now, people don't really pay extensive attention to the letters in VeggieTales, but whenever you do see problems that kids do face. However, in this one, I know this was a network note because Phil and Mike never get this kidified. It's just really, really lame kind of stuff like, should I share my donut? This kid's weird, but I kind of like him, what do I do? They've done similar things in the letters that they've gotten in the real ones, but this just seemed very toned down and very, very lame. But that's not so much of a real problem as it is a nitpick. But this is where we get to the actual problem here, and that's going to transition us into the shows themselves. They had to change the ending line, but they didn't know this until the first season was up. You know how every single VeggieTales episode ends, or at least used to, with, "Remember kids, God made you special and he loves you very much. Bye!" Well, that's not gonna fly on major TV. Because Qubo and Universal are extremely secular companies, they wouldn't let them say stuff like that. So their mouths still say that, but it's always dubbed over with, "We'll see you next week, bye!" Even though they're very clearly mouthing the words, "God made you special and he loves you very much," and try to speed up the mouth movement so it looks like it fixes. But it's not fixed. It looks bad, and you can tell something is definitely wrong. And in fact, yes, they were asked to redub it after the animation was already done. And they didn't have time to go back and fix it because the episode was about to air. All of them. So yeah, you can't be a Christian show on the major network. And yeah, that's where the problem starts. You can't have the God part in the actual episode either. Qubo went out of their way to edit out almost every single aspect of God, and they did so unless it was extremely plot relevant or they just couldn't get rid of it, like if it was in a song. So it was still good, but it just didn't have its actual purpose in mind. It wasn't able to do what it was actually supposed to do, be a Christian show. It was just a regular little kid show. And yes, it still taught the lessons well, but it missed that ultra important element. It's like when I talked about last time how 321 Penguins gave out what little messages it had to become a Qubo show. This was forced to give it up to become a technically Qubo show, although it still technically was Big Idea, of course. And that doesn't directly change the quality of the episodes, but it definitely does tell that something's lacking. And why would you go out of your way to watch an edited, less Christian version of VeggieTales when you could just watch the regular one? That's probably why it didn't do so well on Qubo, is because it was edited out. All of that stuff that people came to VeggieTales for in the first place, minus the writing, were gone. What's the purpose of watching just one hacked together episode if you're just gonna be left with an unpleasant experience? Why don't you just go out and watch the actual one? And that's the process that went through everyone's mind. That's why the show didn't do very well. But there's more that they edited. Because VeggieTales episodes usually were half an hour, although sometimes actually they were a bit longer, that's fine for direct-to-video, but not for TV, because they had to fit in commercials, they had to fit in the countertop segments, which weren't actually countertop segments, but still referred to as countertop segments, so they had to edit some stuff out. A lot of funny jokes, a lot of comedic scenes. Esther especially got what I consider the worst of the cut-together versions. You can still find that online, and they cut out a lot. And again, this begs the question, why don't you just go watch the original? You're gonna watch a version that's less in basically every way. And there's only one on that day. And then you're just gonna have to wait another week to watch another one that's gonna be a completely different one, and it's just gonna be, again, cut to pieces. What's the point? Yeah, those countertop, quote-unquote, segments are good, but it's not enough to make it all worthwhile. And yeah, the show did nothing in terms of viewership for Qubo, and it was torpedoed very quickly. Phil Vischer has gone on to say that this was probably a mistake, and yeah, this was definitely the case. I considered it a mistake as well, but at least it's one that didn't hurt the company, unlike, as much as I love it, Jonah. This didn't really ruin anything, this didn't set them back too much. I mean, yeah, they were going to get acquired by DreamWorks any time now, but it was only inevitable at this point. Really, this is pretty much a largely forgotten part of Veggie history. But I can't say that it's bad. While pointless, it still has those awesome beginning and ending segments, and it's still, for the most part, the episodes that we know and love. So I'm not going to say that it's good or bad, because it's wildly varied, so I'm going to give it nothing.
You get nothing!
You can still find some of these segments online if you look. They're pretty much all worthwhile. Even the ones that aren't very good are just okay. There's never been a bad one that I can find, but some of them are hilarious. Specifically Asparagus of La Mancha and Lyle the Kindly Viking. Those two especially are the best. And they get me to laugh every time. Even if Archibald's a tiny bit out of character in the former. So what do you guys think? Did you guys see these on TV like I did? Even though I was a little too old for them, it was just kind of a cool novelty to see them on TV. Or did you not know about this? Or come on, tell me what you got. Alright, see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
And don't forget, God made you special and He loves you very much. See? You can actually say that online, unlike on TV.